The day after the deal was signed, my partners came to me and dropped me. I didn't have an operating agreement, and suddenly I was just cut loose on my own.
Oftentimes, when you're down and out, when you don't have anything, that drives change.
That challenge/opportunity, you don't have to wait for permission. You go do it. You have nothing to lose.
Welcome to the Business Ballers Podcast. I'm Mark.
And I'm Sarah.
Today, we're going to talk about that if you have no money, well, then you don't have anything to lose, and how being broke can actually be better for you starting out as an entrepreneur. Getting right into it, I would say that being broke is super scary, actually, because I've been broke. And in particular, I had a moment where I drove up to the bank to get $25, and I didn't have $25 at that time. And our business was going poorly, didn't have any money. I was questioning my life decisions. I was very depressed. I mean, in a real depression. I felt like, well, if I didn't wake up, I wouldn't be unhappy. And I remember calling my mother, and my mother talked me off that ledge, and being young, I was just, leaned on her. And she got me into a better frame of mind, and thank God she did, because shortly thereafter, we were able to license the Marvel Comics characters. Investors wanted to come in, and like literally in an instant, the whole thing changed. And from that point on, I was at least able to withdraw $25 from the bank. That's a moment I remember. And of course, it's terrifying to have little or no money. Do you have anything similar?
My story was similar feeling of fear, different stage in my working, where I had been in a corporate job working with some people, and then we decided to go out on our own and try to do a deal to acquire a company with the plan that we would all go in and run the company.
Yeah.
So we worked a year on this. I had some insights, so provided a lot of data, did a lot of the number crunching, the work on it.
Yeah.
And then the day after the deal was signed, my partners came to me and dropped me. And I didn't have an operating agreement. I didn't know all those things that I needed. And suddenly I was just cut loose on my own. And I wasn't flat out broke, but suddenly I had no paycheck. Yeah. And I was living in New York, those New York apartment prices. I didn't have health care, how I was going to live. My family never gave me money either. I was on my own in the most expensive city there was.
Yeah.
And it was complete fear, but it also became the catalyst for me to start my own business, but also make a shift from being in finance into what I really wanted to do, which was more on the strategy and marketing side.
Okay, so there are a couple points that I want to draw from what you just said there. The first being is that paycheck, that is security, and that gives you, a blanket to fall on, right? And we can't underestimate that.
Not only the paycheck, but when you're working in a company, you also have health care, and that comes out of your paycheck. And then when you're on your own, suddenly you have to figure out how to pay that on your own versus it. Not that you're not paying for it, but it gets a bit lost in your paycheck. So you learn to live off what the net is.
Yeah.
Just all those expenses are suddenly yours on top of just the organization and how to even get them.
Right, exactly. And that's why we recommend that if you're starting a business and you do have a job, like it's best if you can to do your business, start your business in the evenings, on your weekends, at night, whatever. That's when you want to get it going, because this way you can still have that income, but start building something. Oftentimes, when you're down and out, when you don't have anything, that drives change, and really formative, positive change in careers, in businesses, because it makes you really have to snap up, get tuned up.
Yeah, for me, I realized when I was working in a company, I was a little bit timid about things, and I knew I wanted to make that change, but it was harder to do.
Yeah.
And you're faced with that challenge/opportunity, you don't have to wait for permission. You go do it. And like you said, you have nothing to lose.
Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the myth that you need a lot of money to start a business.
Yeah. So I think one of the great things that Mark and I have both been through in all of our situations, from Mark's being broke or not having a paycheck, is that we've really learned how to what we call bootstrap.
Yeah.
And we talk about bootstrapping a lot in the course and the different tactics that you can use if you don't have money when you're starting out to be able to build up your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And that ability to bootstrap is treasured by investors. So if you think even about Shark Tank, for probably most people have seen that, there's nothing the sharks love more than when somebody went
That's
from
right. Yeah.
zero, right, broke ass, and then they're able to really create something. And so we know that that's something that's really valued by investors.
Yeah, we really break it down into all those components of your business so you can literally integrate it as you're setting up as well as you're managing and running and scaling. So everything from what can you bootstrap within your operations? What can you bootstrap in your marketing? Where can you go find potentially some grants or other funding or mentors to be able to actually get your business going?
I hear what you're saying there. And for example, for me, the company that bought my first company, these guys were doing really well and company was going along nicely. And they actually made an IPO. They had a big surge of money come in the doors. And within 9 months, they were at bankruptcy. So,
Wow.
yeah, because like having all of that capital, it took away the focus that they had, the energy that they had, the drive that the executive team had, all of that. Everybody's suddenly driving nice cars. They're taking their eye off of the ball. And next thing you know, the business is in trouble.
Yeah, I had a similar situation. This was a company I was in that was bought out by a big private equity, and they put a ton of money into it up front to turn it around. Not only their own investment, but over levered it with a bunch of debt.
Yeah.
And then there was so much there that the company couldn't even focus on the things that was going to create what it needed to reinvent
Yeah.
and turn itself back around between the product and all the other things with it, and literally blew all the money on marketing, all the surface I like to call putting lipstick on the pig type tactics.
Yeah.
And same thing, within 2 years, the company literally shut doors. And the sad thing was because they approached it that way, all the employees all lost their jobs too that had been there and had all this wealth of money, and then suddenly it was gone.
I mean, there are countless examples. We give a number of them in the course, but pets.com, right? If it were about funding, that would have been a real winner. They had funding, but they never proved their business model. The basic block and tackle things that we talk about in the course, these companies fail to do. Is there a market for what you're doing? Getting a product, an MVP there? Do people want to buy it? So that you're scaling on something that people actually want versus an idea. Having a lot of money can affect you negatively in that way.
Well, let's shift gears a bit and get back to bootstrapping.
Yeah.
And when you don't have money, maybe let's start with, do you have an example or a good one to share about how you are really able to turn nothing into something big?
The idea here is that bootstrapping doesn't just mean being cheap, right? Because that's part of it, but it's also like you're watching that money like it's your own money for sure. And it might be your own money, in fact. So you're being careful there, but it's also about leveraging opportunities to get to your point. I would say the best example that I've seen of that recently was at GLD. And so the guys there early on really hustled to go out and get other people to post for them on Instagram back when that wasn't really a thing. And they were able to drive a lot of business and get a lot of exposure without spending money. So they were trading, even merchandise for posts and things back in those early days.
Really smart.
Yeah, they did a great job of it.
Yeah, my example really was when I started my own first business. And again, going back when I said suddenly I didn't have a paycheck. So I had the money I had saved, and I knew I wanted to start this business in New York and stay there. So I really did everything I could to network with every single person I had known to date, other people I'd worked with, And that was one of the main things that really helped me start to get some of my first clients and first projects. And then everything else, I leaned on mentors I had had, friends, brought on a lot of tools that cost me nothing. But my goal was basically to spend little to nothing because I was the resource and really the cost was my time.
Yep.
And I had to do it, a lot of what you're saying before, because I didn't have a paycheck. So I was either going to be dipping into my future savings or figuring it out.
I think we give people a lot of tools. Like in that example, I'm thinking of budgeting, because I think many times people think, well, I need a lot of money to get this to market. It's just in their mind, they imagine it will be a lot, but we show you how to get that down onto a piece of paper, right? And actually know, well, how much money do you need and how can you approach getting something completed without huge amount of capital?
Yeah, and that budget is really a fundamental part. You need that plan to get from A to B,
Yep.
and that's a big component of it, along with your roadmap, the product, everything we teach you on how to set that up on your website, your marketing, and all the way through.
I think we are also really showing people viable tools that they can use to reduce cost as well. Like right now, there are a ton of tools out there, but you need to have the insight to which of those are going to work, particularly when you start talking about AI. And in our AI module, we identify these 5 tools that will really be impactful for you beginning the business and getting your early products launched.
That's a great point. You can get completely overwhelmed with tools.
Yeah.
Every tool you look at, like just like every agency, basically say they can do everything under the sun. And just the time to vet them and go figure it out versus knowing I need this and I need this from the tool. We've cut through all that for you in every single part of a business. So you can go to the ones that will do what you need to get done.
The product that you're bringing to market too is also really important, and what your vision of that product is. And we teach you the concept of a minimum viable product, the MVP, but not only the concept of it, but we show you all of the different types of products that you could possibly create and the path to do it in the most efficient way with the least feature creep, with the least amount of extraneous stuff that you really don't need, so you get to market quickly.
Building on that with branding and marketing, how do you build something that's going to get you off the ground, but something that will grow and scale? Lots of bootstrapping tips within marketing. We show you how do you figure out what audience and customer you're going after, so you're not just spending money and trying to throw it against the wall and see what sticks.
Content.
Content. We talk a lot about that. You'll hear Mark and I say that a lot, that really drives you. You can do that very inexpensively. You can do it yourself in a lot of cases. You don't have to go and hire a bunch of people to do that for you, again, with the tools that are out there.
Sarah's branding exercise is amazing. So
Thanks.
it's so well done. Honestly, I feel like it's one of the best modules in the course, but helps you so much to identify who you're going after and set those early decisions. So this business can really begin rolling in the right way, but you get it started out perfectly. I think it's one of the best modules.
Yeah, and I think another one that I really feel is valuable in the marketing module after the branding is what we teach you on paid advertising. Everyone hears about, I've got to run ads on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and spending lots of money. Well, we show you how to approach that, as Mark said, with the right budget, with the right content, so you can do that very effectively.
Yep.
And not be blowing your whole budget on day one trying to figure out and test what works.
Right, exactly. Like we literally take you through tiers of capital that you might have to be able to deploy against the marketing spend and show you how to use each tier effectively.
And then there's a lot in there about marketing too that's low cost or no cost. I know one of the things for me that I figured out getting into marketing a little later in my career, how important relying on word of mouth and referral marketing or even local marketing. That's just as important as what you can spend on digital or other paid media. And we talk about how you can balance that without trying to bite off too much out of the gate, but really get what you need out of it.
I think today, and in particular today, because people are so used to being online, right? That they're forgetting the people around them,
Yeah,
right? So
true.
both potentially customers, but also mentors and people who are willing to help you for free, right? Maybe it's someone who has, I don't know, an accountant or a marketing person who would be willing, they'll let you in touch with so you can learn something, work with them at a zero cost.
Yeah.
So there's so many opportunities out there right now, and people are neglecting them because their mentality is so focused online.
So coming back to what Mark said initially, this is why bootstrapping doesn't mean you're being cheap. It's really about being smart and hustling and going after those opportunities that are probably right around you and right in front of you. And you can really get a long way, if not the whole way, doing those tactics that we teach you in the course.
Right. But there are also those times where you need the capital, you need
Yes.
some amount of capital. And we are going to also show you how to get that together, both on the bootstrapping level, which personally I've done. I think I've done every bootstrap from my Uncle Fred to grants, thanks, Mr. Black, if you're watching, who he wrote, he's my statistic teacher, and
Love
he
it.
wrote our, so anyway, that grant he wrote. But anyway, so I've done all of those, and that's one level that we cover, how to get that done in bootstrapping. And then as you advance in the business, of course, over time, then we're teaching you how to go out and raise millions of dollars as well.
Rounding out that myth that you started with, 77% of people start their business broke.
Yeah. I mean, there you have it. Like, you're not in the minority, you're in the majority by far here. When people are beginning, they have little to no capital to work with.
So how do we help people get to the place where they're overcoming that fear?
There's two ways. So the first is, and we've talked a lot about it, the course, because the course gives you the skills that you need to overcome it. And you don't need then to reinvent the wheels that have been invented already, right? So we've already done that for you, and you can follow the path and not have to come up with it on your own. And secondly, and I think most importantly, when you're starting out in business, is to get the right mindset.
Yes.
To me, that is critical.
And to be honest, when I first started, I didn't think about mindset at all. I just thought about, I'm on my own, I'm going to go do this. And as I started doing it more and more, I realized how much and how important that actually is.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally was skeptical, saying mindset, schmindset, whatever. Sure, sounds good. But if you take the time to focus on that, and we're going to teach you that too, it really can pay in spades.
That actually comes, like, if you look at our free module, which is actually on the money mindset.
Yep.
If you go through that, you listen to that material and you apply that. Now, changing your mindset isn't like this. It doesn't happen. It takes energy and it takes time, just like everything. But you can reshape the way you approach business and even life, right? Because when you start talking about the money mindset, it's also an important thing just for people's lives, regardless if you start a business or not. But in particular, if you're going into a business, you got to begin with getting yourself in the right perspective to achieve success.
Getting that right perspective, and also acknowledging you're not going to be perfectly set up for every part of mindset, whether it's going to change overnight or you learn it. And we show you all those different elements so that you can have that action plan for yourself and know what are your strengths are, what are the things that you need to improve, what do you need to actually work on. And we talk all the way through that so you can actually get those habits ingrained and start just doing them and you don't even realize it.
We're telling you what skill you need and you've got to go and apply it. In the money mindset, there's actually, exercises that you need to do over time that builds you into that. And as Sarah said, you may have to work on, some of those more than others.
I know one of the things for me when we were creating the money mindset module and actually going through it for myself, I realized things I was doing, but not how important they were and how much value they were probably actually bringing to me every single day. For example, taking that time for yourself first thing in the morning versus waking up, getting ready, and racing to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the vast majority of people start out their days by grabbing their telephone and start scrolling. Immediately allow other people or other factors to take control of their emotions and thoughts. And for me, you have to own that first hour of your day, and it helps drive you towards success. My own case, for example, I like to start out with a meditation. I do a gratitude exercise, write down some goals that I have long term and for that day. And that puts me in the frame of mind to attack that day and get the most out of it.
Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
And now it's a habit that you just do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've been doing it for a long time. And I think that the things that we outline in there, you could say, well, they're fluffy. They're not. They're like, they ground you in the right perspective and they get you set on your goals to achieve them, both in the short term and the long term.
Yeah, and if you balance those out with more of the tangible things and the
Yep.
tactics that we teach you, then you really have that right brain, left brain of what you need
Right.
to be able to be successful.
As we say, you could sit around and imagine something, visualize something forever, but if you don't actually apply yourself and your skills, you're not getting anywhere. So you have the mindset and you have the skills, and you've got to apply the mindset into the skills to achieve your goal.
Yeah. So we've been talking about bootstrapping and then the money mindset module. To go with what our topic is today, we don't take it lightly that we want you to spend money and invest yourself in the Business Ballers course. And that's why Mark and I decided to give you for free the money mindset module so you can get a taste of what the whole course is like and understand that before you make that investment. And we also want to stand behind what we're talking about and how we're going to give you those tools to succeed.
For Sarah and I, it's very important to drive value for you right away. This is giving you, if you will, half of the equation, which is the mindset. The other half is the skills. We always want to provide value. For example, even, if any advice that we give on how to like trademark something, right? You're getting that, you're able to trademark something for free. You don't have to pay a lawyer to do it. So we try along the way to give you easy, low-hanging fruit, which will easily absorb the cost of what we're doing in this course.
Circling back to our topic for today, which was overcoming your fear if you're starting a business with little or nothing. We've talked a lot today about bootstrapping. We also covered how essential it is to have a money mindset. Mark and I don't take it lightly that the investment in our course is something that's important but also costs money. So we're offering for you our money mindset module for free. If you go to the businessballers.com website and sign up for it, we will send it to you instantly. You can check it out, see the value for yourself before you jump into buying the full course.